Today's video is brought to you by Liquid IV, which is not a actual sponsor yet. I'm looking at you guys, maybe a real sponsor, but I put a pack in this, and it's the only reason why today I feel like I'm not going to die. So, I like the passion fruit. Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today it's another video on my 2024 NFL offseason prediction series. It's the New York Football Jets. Make sure to like and comment. It is unbelievable for the algorithms. Pushes this video out, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Subscriptions mean everything to me. It doesn't seem like much, but it's just awesome to see the subscriptions and the views roll in, no matter how much or how little they actually are. It's about the potential of what that all could mean, and no team talks about the potential of what it could mean and what could have been than the New York Jets, because they were coming in with Aaron Rodgers, the veteran, arguably one of the best, if not the top 5 best quarterback of NFL history, gets injured on the 4th play of the year. Throws the whole season down the drain. It does save them having to give up a first-round pick to the Green Bay Packers, which is significant, especially in this draft where a lot of their needs are strengths of the top echelon of this draft class, specifically on the offensive line and at the wide receiver position, and we'll get to both of those things throughout this video. Their head coach, Robert Saleh, has been rumored to have kind of lost his edge a bit, lost the locker room at some point in the year, but I think it was overall just a very frustrating season. There was so many expectations, and those expectations really got just flushed down the drain with a torn Achilles tendon on that amazing and totally safe and awesome MetLife Stadium field. Still haven't changed the grass there. And they're going to do the World Cup final there in 2026. So that must mean a good sign for the conditions of that field, because I highly doubt they will allow that field to be what it is right now and have the best soccer players, the most famous athletes in the world, playing on that in the biggest, most watched sporting event ever, and watch just ACLs get blown out left, right, and center. That's not going to happen. So there you go. That's something for the Jets, kind of. No more blown knees and ACLs and Achilles tendons, and let's just talk about the polarizing sides of the football that the Jets experienced this season. The Jets head coach is Robert Saleh, who's one of, at least he might be the best defensive-oriented head coach in the NFL right now. The work that he has done with a lot of the young players in particular that he's brought onto this Jets team, how he's revived in certain careers, how he's truly gotten the best out of people on the defensive side has been great. Now, there's been a lot of instability on the offensive side, and you could see that here just with how bad they were in probably the 3 most important categories that your offense can have: total touchdowns, red zone percentage, and third down percentage. Dead last in those categories. They were dead last in passing touchdowns, 30th in yards, 30th in rush touchdowns. They just weren't able to get anything going on the offensive side of the ball. And that really was, frankly, because Aaron Rodgers, who they invested to build this offense around, got injured on the 4th play of the game of the season. And you pretty much punted away this season offensively, and they were still able to win games, which is still a wild... It's still wild that they're picking 10th in this draft when they had these types of offensive numbers. You know, they do have really good players on the offensive side of the ball. They're in a position to now add players. So as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, I anticipate a lot of these numbers improving drastically. I think it kind of has to, right? The pass yards, pass touchdowns, the points, red zone efficiency, and third down efficiency. You know, Aaron Rodgers, there was a great clip of Tom Brady talking about how he'll watch a play and the quarterback will run because nobody's open, and the announcers will say, "Oh, that's a great play." Meanwhile, Brady's like, "Well, why'd you snap the ball at all?" because you're third and short, you're calling for man. You figure out pre-snap if it's man, if it's cover two, why are you not changing the play to a cover two instead of you're running crossers, which don't work against cover two, everyone's covered, and then you're running and getting the first down. It's like you could have ran something more efficient. To now have that type of veteran presence in Aaron Rodgers, because he's capable of doing all that, I think is going to drastically improve this offense. Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Breece Hall's going to have a full healthy season coming up. Garrett Wilson's going to finally have a great quarterback throwing him the ball, so he's primed. All the things that we were saying about the Jets coming into this season that just happened are now true for this year upcoming. Because it's almost like they didn't have Aaron Rodgers. They traded basically a second-round pick last year and this year to get Aaron Rodgers on like a 1-year delay, basically. But then he's coming into a team also that is putting up some of the best defensive numbers in the league. And keep in mind, they're putting up these defensive numbers with that offense that is so inefficient. So they're allowing just the second most pass yards, the fourth pass touchdown. They were getting run on quite a bit because they were playing from behind most of the season because of that. But they were still 7th in sacks and they were still 8th in turnovers. They were 7th in red zone percentage, 9th in touchdowns allowed. They were top half of the league in third down percentage. So even though they were constantly put in these terrible situations, they've drafted really well. They've gotten great production, like I said just a moment ago, out of guys like Quincy Williams, who has come on as one of the best linebackers of the last season. And he really did, Robert Saleh really did almost, in a way, recreate that Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw combination that he had in San Francisco with C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams taking on the Dre Greenlaw role. So obviously they're not as good as Fred. Fred Warner is the best linebacker in football. But to have that combination that's so efficient on all three downs in all situations, and man and zone and blitzing and run support, disguise, just the IQ, the pursuit angle, all that stuff that they have with these linebackers, you're going to get great linebacker. You're going to get great overall play in general in the middle of the field. And now they're in a position where they have great young prospects on the defensive end, so those sack numbers are going to pretty much stay the same. Don't know what's going to happen with Bryce Huff. They're probably not going to be able to afford to bring him back. And they're in a position now where they can make improvements. They can figure out what went wrong on the offensive side of the ball outside of not having a quarterback. And now you got this defense, you can go, okay, we're going to plug in situational, rotational guys now to just up the ante on how efficient we can be on defense. And then you do that through investments on the interior defensive line. You do that in investments in the safety position. And I think that when you have Robert Saleh in place and you have this type of this base to work off of, where you're not really losing anyone of significance, so these numbers are going to be relatively the same. I think the rush numbers will also improve because they won't be playing from behind all that much. So maybe the pass numbers, they suffer in a couple of position groups, but I think they can improve 10, 12 to 15 spots in some of these rushing categories. And third down percentage, I think they're going to be put in a position where they're going to be able to anticipate what the team's doing more because the offense will be so much better. So I think that guys like Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Jermaine Johnson on the end there, Will McDonald going into a second year, I think all those guys are going to start eating a lot more come next season. And it's all really based upon the offense improving on their rankings more so than the defense doing anything different to improve on theirs. Now, they don't have a lot of salary cap, but there are ways for them to create some salary cap space coming up for this season. And we'll start with how they're, there's not a lot of guys that they can cut. They got two tight ends, Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzomah, who are both, they're both worth way too much money, frankly. for their production. But to choose one of them, I'm choosing Tyler Conklin and going to cut CJ Uzomah, get the $5.3 million in cap savings. Then I'm going to restructure some deals. CJ Mosley's one I'm going to restructure and get $10.5 million. That's because, he is over 30 years old, so maybe giving him a contract extension isn't necessarily in your best interest as much as it is kicking his contract a little bit more down the road. I look at Allen Lazard, who was brought in solely to play with Aaron Rodgers, so I'm gonna restructure him, kick his contract down the road a bit, free up some cap space in the immediate. And then Quinnen Williams, who just signed a big extension, I'm gonna restructure his contract a bit also, free up $10.6 million, so that way you can make a couple of moves here, including an extension for Elijah Vera Tucker, 3 years, $30 million, $50 million bonus with a void year. That's somewhere in between what you see with those like high level guard tackle hybrids. You don't really know what position Elijah Vera Tucker is going to be playing come next season. And then DJ Reed, who's a great complement on the outside to Sauce Gardner. I'm going to give him a 3-year, $30 million base salary extension with a $20 million bonus with a void year on there, so a 3-year, $50 million extension to stick around a little bit longer. And you're only losing through these extensions. I think I only sacrificed maybe $1 or $2 million total in cap space to do these extensions. And then I'm bringing back Randall Cobb because, again, you only brought him in like Allen Lazard to play with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to get him at a cheap deal. And then Ashton Davis and Bryce Hall, who didn't get starter level snaps, but with Jordan Whitehead entering free agency, Ashton Davis played pretty well when he was on the field. He was pretty damn good. Bryce Hall has this corner safety hybrid capabilities. So I kind of want to keep them around, especially because you can get them, I think, at a really cheap price. And I got them both at 2-year, $10 million deals. I think that's fair because, again, they weren't getting these top-level starter minutes or starter snap counts. So I think as you increase that, you hope to get relatively maybe 80% of the production they were giving you. And then you got two pretty solid safeties that you could play. And of course, you want to add somebody that might be a more traditional, a bigger box safety type, because Bryce Hall is kind of the slot / safety. Ashton Davis is just a straight up safety. So you want to maybe get somebody who's an actual straight up safety. So when you get into those dime packages, Bryce Hall can come down, and you got Bryce Hall, Michael Carter, DJ Reed, Ahmad Gardner, Davis, and then you can add somebody else at the top as well. So I opened up $31 million in salary cap, just about, by making those moves and keeping some guys around also, because this team is not one without needs. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers isn't the fix all here. I would really like for them to add another wide receiver. Right now they have Garrett Wilson, they have Cobb, Allen Lazard. You'd like for them to add another like true wide receiver, like a top level wide receiver. I like the idea of them doing it at number 10. But I think depending on how the offensive linemen align in the draft, that could be a possibility, because I do think offensive line is a big need for them still. I think they can afford to add a guy on the interior and then add a tackle as well. I like the tight end position. I think is more of a luxury thing. I think that they'll take a hard look at Brock Bowers if he falls to them at 10. And then, of course, I think an interior defensive line, get somebody, they had like older players, big-time veteran, like older veterans, excuse me. But you want to get somebody who is next to Quinnen Williams, so I think you want him to be more astute in the run game, because when you get to the passing game, you're going to have John Franklin Myers, who's going to kick inside in those passing down situations. He's more of your early down defensive end, run stuffer or edge setter. And so then that's when a guy like, you'll see a rotation of probably Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald on the one defensive end spot on early downs, and then you'll see them both go in. So you'll need somebody to play at like a more of a traditional nose tackle on those early downs. And then we talked about safety as well. But I would say offensive line is probably their biggest need. I would put wide receiver as their next one, which is I think appropriate because your defense is sort of really is set in a really good spot right now. So I think that they can add some really interesting pieces if they set it up this way. And the big one to me is Kevin Dotson, who just had a tremendous year for the Los Angeles Rams, really found himself after struggling in Pittsburgh. I'm giving him a 4-year, $60 million contract with a $40 million base salary, $20 million bonus. That's up there with some of the highest paid guards in the league. And he immediately comes in, plugs in at one of those guard spots next to Joe Tippmann, who will be your center. Maybe Elijah Vera-Tucker now is your other guard. And then you got Max Mitchell at right tackle, and then now you're looking for left tackle. This opens up the possibilities a lot more now in the draft and in maybe the second wave of free agency. And then you're adding two guys who are weapons, who I feel have some upside here. You know, Kendrick Bourne, 2 years, $12 million with a void year, $5 million base, $7 million bonus. I really like bringing him in. You know, he's got some talent in there. He's never really broken out as being a top guy at any consistent level. But you mix him in there, have him be a mix in there with Aaron Rodgers. You know, Randall Cobb is way older, so maybe Kendrick Bourne could be in there, be a fresh set of legs. And then I would say Mike Gesicki, who had some really good years in Miami. Then that last year in Miami, they really just, like, he was not part of the offense at all. Went to the Patriots and was like, ugh, the entire time. So I think you can get him for real cheap as well. He was only paying for the Patriots at like a $2 million contract. I think you can bring him in. He can be a great receiving tight end for you. And it does, you know, sort of eliminate your need to maybe in the draft go get a tight end as well. And then Gesicki and Conklin can be a good 1-2 punch out there. And Gesicki as a pure receiving tight end would be something fun for Aaron Rodgers to have out there, I think. So even with those signings, you got $23 million in cap space. I think that allows you to, after the draft, you can pick off, you know, some guys in that second, third wave of free agency, which is that's really an underrated. I keep bringing it up in every video, but it's because it's such an underrated aspect of the offseason, is grabbing those guys after the draft to fill out your roster with some veteran presence. So based upon all this, my draft strategy would be at number 10, you're going to take an offensive tackle. It's going to be Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, or Talisi Fuaga. I like the Fuaga pick because he is such a mauler, but if you're taking Fuaga, that means that I think you're putting Elijah Vera-Tucker at left tackle. Because Fuaga is a straight up right tackle, and it's tough to make guys switch sides. It's like trying to brush your teeth with the other hand. If for some reason it's Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu, then I think you've opened up the possibilities here to allow Vera-Tucker to play on the inside with Kevin Dotson, who I had signed as well. So I think Joe Alt's the best option. Fashanu might be a close second, but I think they're going to value, and you hear it in the reports, they'll value Fuaga over Fashanu. In the next round, I'm going defensive backs, interior defensive line. You don't have a second round pick. That one belongs to the Packers. But that's what I'm looking for here. I'm looking to add somebody in at the safety position, and I'm looking to add that nose tackle. Hoping one of those big time interior defensive linemen drop to the third round. That would be unbelievable if like a Tavondre Sweat for some reason fell, a Chris Jenkins or something. If one of those two guys fell to you in the third round, then you're laughing at this point, because then you're grabbing a guy who's a legit starter who could be somebody who could play on all three downs if you needed him to. And then on day 3, I'm just looking at value and depth, the combination of the two, just to continue building this team. You maybe want to look at some of the guys on the offensive line to help build out the depth there, so in that way you don't run into these issues that they ran into this season. And, I mean, talk about value. If you're sitting there in the 4th round and for some reason Bo Nix is still there, Michael Penix is still there, they're talking about how the league views those guys as like late day 2, early day 3 guys. If you're sitting there in the 4th round and you're staring at Bo Nix and you're staring at Michael Penix, it's going to be tough for the Jets to pass up. So I would look for that to be a real sleeper opportunity for them. And there you have it, my 2024 offseason predictions video for the New York Football Jets. Make sure to like and comment if you haven't already. That would be amazing. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. It would mean everything to me. It means a lot to get this channel boosted up. And, hopefully the Jets do what I did. Joe Douglas does what I suggested, because then they will go all the way up there. And they'll be able to compete. I think they'll be able to compete for the division much more than people think. Buffalo and Miami both struggled, more than I think we expected. So I think the Jets can swoop right in there and be a great third team in there. Sort of like what we saw with the Cleveland Browns this year, perhaps. How about that? There's a video. There's a playlist right over there on the other side of my head. It's been there for a little bit, and I will see you guys next time. Click on one of those. Bye.